Good morning everyone. Dear students, in our last lecture we have completed the experimental study of photoelectric effect. Also we discussed the different graph showing variation of photoelectric current with number 1 frequency of incident light, second intensity of incident light, and third, that is potential difference or accelerating PD between the emitter and collector. So now we have to discuss again the variation between photoelectric current at different intensity, also at different frequencies, or we can say what is effect of different values of intensity and frequency on photoelectric current with respect to the another concept like potential difference and frequency. So in short, we will just recap our total part which we learned up to last lecture. So this is photoelectric effect, explanation, the definition of photoelectric effect, small historic background behind that experiment, also the different variations of frequency, changes in energy and corresponding velocity of emitted electron. Then we discuss the experimental study of photoelectric effect, in which we draw a circuit diagram and we explain the construction and working of this circuit diagram systematically in the form of different points like this. First one was construction, then it was working, it was theoretical part of construction and working like this. Then we also discuss the different effects of frequency, intensity and accelerating PD on photoelectric current with the help of different graph. First was varying frequency, intensity and potential kept constant. The graph is shown in the figure. Here we define a term called as threshold frequency also. Next was variation in intensity with frequency and potential difference kept constant. Also the graph shows it is a linear variation, or there is relation directly proportional between photoelectric current and intensity of incident radiation. And also last variation, it was variation of photoelectric current with accelerating PD. In that the frequency of incident light and accelerating potential were kept constant. So its graph represents like this. So it leads us to define one another concept called as saturation current. How saturation current is the maximum value of current beyond which even increase in potential the photoelectric current is not increased. We discuss the concept of saturation current, and finally if we go on decreasing the potential by changing the polarity of battery, how the photoelectric current reduced to zero at certain value of negative potential given to the collector, and that potential was termed as stopping or cutoff potential. The final part in this explanation of experiment, the variation of different physical quantities again. So it was effect of change in frequency, intensity and potential difference between emitter and collector. So we have to explain this like this. This is the graph showing different intensity light incident on metal plate and varying PD or keeping PD and frequency constant. You can say what is the effect on photoelectric current, it is observed that if the light of intensity E1 is kept and frequency is kept constant, if we increase the intensity, the photoelectric current increases and it becomes maximum. So this is first saturation value of photoelectric current. If this intensity light is replaced by another intensity light E2, again the current increases and it becomes maximum and remains constant, called as saturation current, which is greater as compared to first intensity. And finally, if we increase the intensity of light to E3, it is observed that the saturation current also increases, but there is no change in the retarding potential or negative potential. See here, if the frequency of incident radiation and accelerating potential are kept constant, and if we go on increasing the intensity, if intensity is changed, the photoelectric current increases to different saturation values. These are different saturation values for different intensity. In this experiment or during this part, we kept the accelerating PD and frequency of incident light constant, and finally it is observed that the stopping potential or the cutoff potential remains constant for each intensity. Since stopping potential depends upon frequency, as frequency is constant, so stopping potential or cutoff potential remains constant. So this was first part, effect of change in intensity on photoelectric current while frequency and accelerating PD are kept constant. This is for different intensity radiations, different saturation currents, but the same stopping or cutoff potential. So last one here. So again, if intensity, now see here carefully, if the intensity of incident radiation and accelerating potential are kept constant, what happens to photoelectric current and the potential that we have to discuss here? See here, for different frequencies of incident radiation, the saturation current remains same, but the stopping potential decreases. What we have to keep constant here? The intensity of incident radiation and accelerating potential are kept constant. Intensity incident radiation and accelerating PD are kept constant, and for different frequencies of incident radiation, it is observed that saturation current remains constant like this. This is the maximum but constant saturation current as the intensity is kept constant. And if we go on decreasing the potential, it is observed that for first frequency stopping potential is V1, for second frequency nu2 stopping potential is V2, and for third frequency of incident radiation nu3 the stopping potential is V3. It is clear that as frequency increases, the negative value of stopping potential also increases, means negative values increases. So this is explanation here, nu3 is greater than nu2 is greater than nu1. म्हणजे इथं काय झालं, इंटेन्सिटी ऑफ इन्सिडेंट रेडिएशन आणि ॲक्सिलरेटिंग पीडी कॉन्स्टंट ठेवले आणि डिफरंट फ्रिक्वेन्सीचे लाईट आपण पडू दिले. इंटेन्सिटी कॉन्स्टंट आहे म्हणजे दर सेकंदाला पडणाऱ्या फोटॉनची संख्या सारखी आहे. जेवढे फोटॉन तेवढे इलेक्ट्रॉन, म्हणून सॅच्युरेशन करंट जितकं मॅक्सिमम होईल तेवढंच राहणार, कॉन्स्टंट राहणार. ॲक्सिलरेटिंग पोटेन्शियल सुद्धा कॉन्स्टंट ठेवलं त्या कंडिशनला, पण फ्रिक्वेन्सी आपण बदलत नेला. फॉर डिफरंट फ्रिक्वेन्सीज ऑफ इन्सिडेंट रेडिएशन द सॅच्युरेशन करंट रिमेन्स सेम बट द स्टॉपिंग पोटेन्शियल डिक्रीजेस. आता जर आपण निगेटिव्ह पोलॅरिटी त्याची म्हणजे पोलॅरिटी चेंज केल्या आणि कलेक्टरला निगेटिव्ह आणि इमिटरला पॉझिटिव्ह दिलं, पहिला इन्सिडेंट लाईटच्या फ्रिक्वेन्सी nu1 साठी स्टॉपिंग पोटेन्शियल ही V1 येतं, म्हणजे इथं करंट हे 0 होतं. आपण फ्रिक्वेन्सी दुसऱ्या वेळेस वाढवली, थोडं जास्त करंट वाढत पण सॅच्युरेशन करंट तेवढंच, पण फ्रिक्वेन्सी पोटेन्शियल जर निगेटिव्ह करत गेलं तर या फ्रिक्वेन्सीसाठी स्टॉपिंग पोटेन्शियल हे निगेटिव्ह व्हॅल्यू जास्त येते. म्हणजे इथं -5 असेल, इथं -10 येईल. तिसऱ्या फ्रिक्वेन्सीसाठी सर्वात मोठ्या परत एकदा आपल्याला आणखी निगेटिव्ह करावं लागेल त्याला, जेणेकरून इलेक्ट्रॉन थांबतील, ते इथं V3. हे ग्राफ ऑब्जेक्टिव्हसाठी फार महत्त्वाचे आहेत. ऑब्जेक्टिव्हचे प्रश्न जे MCQs टाईप जे तुम्हाला याला येतील, आपल्या बोर्डच्या एक्झाममध्ये पहिला प्रश्न किंवा कॉम्पिटिटिव्ह एक्झाम नीट CET त्याच्यामध्ये हे प्रश्न तुम्हाला ग्राफच्या स्वरूपात येत असतात. आणि पहिल्या भागामध्ये काय केलं, इंटेन्सिटी व्हॅरी केल्या. पहिली इंटेन्सिटी ठेवली म्हणजे नंबर ऑफ फोटॉन्स दर सेकंदाला 10 पडत असतील तर 10च इलेक्ट्रॉन बाहेर येणार, त्याच्यापेक्षा जास्त नाही. म्हणून करंट काय होईल, तितकंच राहील, 5 अँपियर वगैरे काहीतरी फिक्स, त्याच्यापेक्षा वाढणार नाही. दुसऱ्या वेळेस इंटेन्सिटी वाढवली म्हणजे दर सेकंदाला पडणाऱ्या फोटॉनची संख्या 15 केली, 10पेक्षा जास्त झाले म्हणजे तितके जास्त इलेक्ट्रॉन बाहेर पडतील. जेवढे जास्त इलेक्ट्रॉन तितकं मॅक्सिमम करंट जास्त पहिल्यापेक्षा. तिसऱ्या वेळेस आणखी इंटेन्सिटी वाढवली म्हणजे आणखी नंबर ऑफ फोटॉन्स दर सेकंदाला पडणारे जास्त म्हणजे तेवढेच नंबर ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉन जास्त बाहेर पडतील म्हणजे फोटो इलेक्ट्रिक करंट पुन्हा वाढेल. पण ह्या सर्वांसाठी निगेटिव्ह पोटेन्शियल मात्र एकच येतं, तिथं जाऊन फोटो इलेक्ट्रिक करंट मात्र 0 होतं. तर हे झालं पूर्ण एक्सप्लेनेशन या एक्सपेरिमेंटचं. डिफरंट ग्राफ आणि डिफरंट व्हेरिएशन ऑफ डिफरंट फिजिकल क्वांटिटी विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू the another physical quantity and we discuss the change in photoelectric current. इथं हा एक्सपेरिमेंटल पार्ट जो आहे फोटो इलेक्ट्रिक इफेक्टचा तो पूर्ण होतो. त्याच्यानंतरचा जो भाग आहे तो आपण नंतरच्या तासामध्ये बघूया.